People in the city whispered his name with awe. Ademola Adeyemi, the young billionaire. His wealth was vast. His businesses stretched across countries, and his name was always printed on the glossy covers of magazines. To many, Ademola was the definition of success. Tall, dark-skinned with sharp features, a commanding presence, and the kind of confidence that made rooms fall silent when he entered. But deep inside, behind the expensive suits and the luxury cars, Ademola longed for something no money could buy: true love. He had everything: mansions, private jets, businesses. Yet every night, he sat alone in his penthouse, looking down at the glowing city lights and wondering, would anyone ever love me for who I am, not for my money? Then came Amara. Amara was different from the women he usually met. She was stunning, but in the most natural way. Her cocoa-brown skin glowed like polished bronze. Her long curly hair bounced freely, and her warm, curious eyes carried both innocence and fire. She wasn't rich, nor was she desperate to be. She came from a modest family and studied marine biology, spending much of her free time volunteering in coastal fishing communities. The first time Ademola saw her was at a charity event. She wasn't impressed by the wealth in the room, nor by the powerful men trying to charm her. Instead, she spoke passionately about ocean life, about the struggles of poor fishermen, and how the rich had forgotten them. Her voice carried conviction that cut through the shallow conversations of luxury. Ademola was captivated. He pursued her, at first the way he knew best: lavish gifts, expensive dinners, and grand promises. But Amara politely refused them all. "I don't need your money, Ademola," she told him with a smile. "I need sincerity. I need a man whose heart is as strong as his words." For the first time in years, Ademola felt challenged. She didn't bend for his wealth, didn't chase after his lifestyle. That only made him fall deeper. So one evening, standing at the balcony of his glass penthouse overlooking the ocean, Ademola made the boldest move of his life. He went down on one knee, pulled out a diamond ring worth millions, and asked Amara to marry him. The entire restaurant went silent. Guests gasped. Cameras flashed. The billionaire proposing was news that would travel the world in seconds. But Amara's face did not light up. Her lips trembled. And then, in front of everyone, she whispered the words that shattered his pride. "No, Ademola, I can't marry you." The room froze. Ademola's hand shook as the diamond ring glistened under the lights. "Why?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Why would you reject me? I can give you the world." Amara's eyes softened, but her tone remained firm. "You can buy diamonds, Ademola. You can buy houses, cars, even loyalty. But you can't buy love. And right now, I don't love you." The rejection was like thunder tearing through his chest. The billionaire, who had been worshipped by society, had been rejected, not by money, not by power, but by love. The next morning, newspapers screamed, "Billionaire Adeyemi rejected in public proposal." Social media mocked him. Memes flooded the internet. Business partners whispered behind his back. The humiliation burned deeper than any financial loss ever could. For weeks, Ademola shut himself away. He drowned in his own pride and pain. The rejection left him hollow, questioning everything he thought he knew about life. But fate wasn't done with him yet, because while he was nursing his broken heart, Amara had already walked down a completely different path, one that would shock not only Ademola, but the entire nation. She was about to marry a fisherman. The world could not believe it. Just weeks after rejecting billionaire Ademola's lavish proposal, Amara was spotted hand in hand with a man whose entire life seemed like the opposite of luxury. His name was Obinna, a humble fisherman from a small coastal village. Unlike Ademola, Obinna owned no business empire. He had no mansion, no cars, no wealth to flaunt. His skin was darkened by the sun, his hands calloused from years of pulling nets from the ocean, and his clothing simple, faded shirts and trousers that carried the scent of the sea. But what he lacked in riches, he carried in something far greater: a genuine heart. The first time Amara met Obinna was during her volunteer work in his village. She had come to educate fishermen about sustainable fishing methods, and while many listened politely, Obinna's eyes lit up with curiosity. He asked questions, not because he wanted to impress, but because he truly cared. Amara noticed how he treated everyone in the village, with respect, kindness, and humility. When a neighbor's boat broke down, he was the first to repair it, refusing any payment. When children ran along the shore, he played with them, laughing with the innocence of a boy himself. And when Amara spoke, he listened, not to her beauty, not to her fame, but to her soul. That sincerity was what pulled her in. So when Obinna asked her one evening, under the golden glow of the sunset, "Amara, will you give a simple man like me a chance to love you?" Her heart answered before her mind did. Yes, it was a love the world didn't understand. How could a woman reject diamonds for fishnets? How could she walk away from luxury into a life of simplicity? Critics called her foolish. Friends tried to dissuade her. Even her family was torn, whispering that she was throwing away her future. But Amara's eyes saw what money could never show her, Obinna's soul. Their wedding was nothing like Ademola's planned proposal under city lights. It was held on the sandy shores of Obinna's village, where the salty breeze carried laughter instead of whispers. The villagers cooked fresh fish, pounded yam, and spicy jollof rice for the feast. The women wore bright wrappers and danced to the talking drums, their voices echoing across the sea. Amara wore no diamond crown. Instead, she dressed in a simple white gown, her curly hair adorned with seashells Obinna had collected himself. And when he saw her walking toward him, barefoot on the sand, Obinna's eyes filled with tears. "You are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen," he whispered, holding her hands. "And you," Amara smiled, "are the only man who sees me. Not my beauty, not my status, just me." The village erupted in cheers as they exchanged vows. And when they kissed, it was as if the ocean itself blessed their union, the waves rising and crashing as though celebrating. But far away, in his cold mansion, Ademola watched the news footage with eyes burning like fire. How could Amara, the woman he loved, reject him? A man who could give her the world, for someone who barely had enough to survive. Jealousy consumed him. He replayed the video over and over, watching Obinna's humble smile, Amara's glowing face, and the villagers' joy. Each replay stabbed his pride deeper. Is this what love looks like? Ademola muttered to himself. Or is she mocking me? Choosing a fisherman just to wound me? His assistants noticed his temper growing darker. His businesses began to suffer because he spent less time at meetings and more time obsessing over Amara's choice. Reporters continued to mock him, labeling him the billionaire who lost to a fisherman. Meanwhile, in the village, life was not as easy as it seemed. Amara had traded her comfortable city life for a hut by the shore. She fetched water, cooked with firewood, and sometimes went hungry when fishing was poor. The smell of the ocean never left her clothes, and the nights were long and quiet compared to the noise of the city. But in every struggle, Obinna was by her side. When she struggled to adapt to village chores, he laughed gently and taught her patiently. When storms ruined their fishing nets, he assured her, "We will rebuild together." When she felt doubt creeping in, he held her and said, "You chose me, and I will spend every day proving that your choice was right." And slowly, Amara realized this was love, not the glitz, not the glamour, but the unshakable bond of two people who carried each other's burdens. One night, as the moonlight bathed the ocean in silver, Amara lay in Obinna's arms and whispered, "I don't care if the world thinks I'm foolish. With you, I've found peace that no mansion can give." Obinna kissed her forehead. "And with you, I found a treasure greater than any fish the ocean can ever offer." But while they were building their world of love and simplicity, a storm was brewing elsewhere. Ademola had made a decision. If love could not be bought, then perhaps it could be stolen. And he was about to step into Amara and Obinna's peaceful life in a way that would shake everything they had built. The world moved on, but Ademola never did. Every newspaper headline, every viral video of Amara and Obinna's simple yet glowing life in the fisherman's village only added salt to the wound of his pride. The once proud billionaire, who had commanded respect in every boardroom, was now the man rejected for love by a fisherman. He couldn't let it go. One morning, as the sun rose over the city skyline, Ademola looked in the mirror. His beard had grown untidy, his eyes tired, his empire in chaos. Yet, underneath all the exhaustion, There was only one thing left burning inside him, desire. If she won't come back willingly, he muttered to himself, gripping the edge of his glass table, then I'll make her. Meanwhile, in the small coastal village, life was both beautiful and difficult. Obinna woke before dawn each day, hauling heavy nets into the sea. His tall, muscular frame was bent with exhaustion, but his spirit never wavered. Amara, though once from a life of silk bedsheets and golden cutlery, now fetched water from the village well and cooked over open firewood, smoke clinging to her braided hair. They had little, but they had love, and that love was enough to keep them smiling, even when storms swept away their nets or when hunger knocked on their door. One evening, Obinna returned from the sea with no fish. His hands were blistered, his clothes drenched with salty water. Amara, worried, ran to him. "Obinna, you can't keep pushing yourself like this. What if the sea takes you one day?" she said, her voice trembling. He placed his rough hands on her soft cheeks and smiled. "If the sea takes me, then it will know I died providing for the woman I love." Her eyes filled with tears as she hugged him tightly. She thought of Ademila for just a second, how life could have been easy, filled with luxury. But as Obinna's heart beat against hers, she knew she had made the right choice. Or so she thought. 2 months later, a black convoy of expensive cars rolled into the fisherman's village, kicking up dust on the sandy roads. The villagers stopped what they were doing. Children stared, women whispered, and men gathered, curious. From the car stepped Ademila. His suit was spotless, his watch glittering in the sun. Though he looked exhausted, he carried himself with the pride of a lion walking into foreign territory. The villagers whispered louder. They all knew who he was, the billionaire who had once courted Amara. Obinna walked forward, protective, standing in front of his wife as Ademila approached. "Why are you here?" Obinna asked firmly, his voice like steel. Ademila smirked, his eyes not leaving Amara's face. "I came for what was mine." "Amara," the villagers gasped. Amara's hands trembled as she clutched Obinna's arm. "I am not yours, Ademila," she said firmly. "I made my choice." Ademila's smile faded. His voice grew darker. "Amara, look around you. You fetch water, cook with firewood. We're rags compared to what I can give you. Come back with me, and I'll give you everything, cars, diamonds, a palace. You weren't made for this poverty." Obinna's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, Amara stepped forward. "Ademila, listen to me. You think love is about gold and diamonds, but I have more peace in this hut than I ever had in your mansion. You cannot buy my soul." The villagers erupted in cheers, clapping and praising her words, but Ademila's face twisted with rage. "You will regret this, Amara. Both of you will." And with that, he turned, entered his car, and sped off, leaving a trail of dust and fear. True to his word, Ademila struck back. Within weeks, fishing boats in Obinna's village were mysteriously destroyed. Supplies from the city stopped arriving. Even government officials, bribed by Ademila, began harassing the fishermen with new taxes and restrictions. The once lively village turned desperate. Families starved, nets went empty, and all fingers began to point at Obinna. "Ever since you brought her here," one elder whispered to him, "trouble has followed us." Obinna's heart was heavy, but Amara stood by him, holding his hand every night under the starry sky. "Obinna," she whispered, "no matter what he takes from us, he cannot take what we have. We will survive this storm." But even as she said the words, she feared what Ademila might do next. One stormy night, Obinna risked his life to go to sea, hoping to catch enough fish to feed the starving village. The waves crashed violently, the wind howled, and lightning tore across the sky. Amara stood on the shore, praying, tears streaming down her face. Hours passed. No sign of him. Villagers murmured that he was gone. Some even whispered that this was Ademila's doing, that fate was punishing her for rejecting wealth. But just before dawn, Obinna stumbled out of the sea, torn nets in hand, but alive. And in those nets, against all odds, were fish, enough to feed the village for days. The villagers cheered. Obinna, drenched and exhausted, collapsed into Amara's arms. "You see," he whispered weakly, "even the sea fights for us." That moment changed everything. The villagers, once doubtful, now rallied around Obina and Amara. Together, they rebuilt their boats, repaired their nets, and learned to fight back against the powerful forces threatening them. Meanwhile, Ademola's obsession consumed him. He spent millions sabotaging the village, bribing officials, and plotting Amara's return. But the more he spent, the more his empire crumbled. Deals collapsed, investors pulled out, and soon, his wealth began to vanish. One morning, standing in his empty mansion, Ademola realized the bitter truth. In trying to destroy Obina and win Amara back, he had destroyed himself. And when news reached him that the very villagers he tried to crush were now thriving, working together stronger than ever, his pride shattered. Months later, the village was alive again. Nets overflowed with fish, children laughed freely, and hope returned. Obina and Amara stood on the shore one evening, watching the sunset paint the waves in gold. "Do you regret choosing me?" Obina asked softly, his arm around her. Amara smiled, leaning into him. "Never. I chose love. I chose peace. And I chose you. Even if the world thinks I am foolish, my heart knows I am the richest woman alive." He kissed her forehead, and together, they watched the horizon, two souls who had defied the world in one. And somewhere far away, in a dark, empty mansion, a broken billionaire finally understood the cruel irony. He had everything, but lost love, while a fisherman had nothing, yet gained the greatest treasure of all,